This is Palworld on Steam Deck, the latest smash hit on Steam with millions of players, and it really is taking the gaming world by storm for various reasons, some of which I will attempt to go into later in the video. Looking it up, it's now in the top 10 on Steam for having the most players online ever. That is quite an impressive achievement. The developer actually claimed that Palworld took the #1 spot for paid games on concurrent players, but they're actually wrong. The crown is still firmly on PUBG's head from when it was a paid game. And the last I checked, the developer said that Palworld has now actually sold 4 million copies, so it's hot stuff indeed. So what actually is Palworld? Well, it's a mixture of Pokemon with the newer Zelda games and a bit of Ark Survival Evolved. It does blend them all together. It is highly derivative, and that's being kind, but due to this, it also does a lot of things that none of them do, and ends up being quite unique. It's also full of bugs, it's janky as heck, and it is an unfinished early access game, but I can't help but be completely absorbed by it. It has basically everything I could have wanted, and in a lot of ways, it really does show how utterly stale the later Pokemon games are nowadays. If anything, I hope it lights a fire under Nintendo and Game Freak to do better in future. Now in Palworld, you get a big open world to explore, there's crafting, farming, secret treasures to find, and of course, there are the pals themselves. There's lots of different pals to find in the world, to capture, and to put to work. Because that's the interesting thing in this game. Your pals literally work for you at your base to help you build and do all sorts. They also fight alongside you in the world in real-time combat. In this game, you can even capture humans, which is a bit, Still, there are numerous games out there that do far, far worse things. There are lots of games that are pretty horrific in what you do. Palworld is pretty tame. The capturing human side of it seems like it's just a gimmick that's been left in for some shock value and for TikTok meme videos on it. Anyway, to get things going, the good news for players is that it does work on Steam Deck. Valve tested it officially and they've given it a Steam Deck playable rating with Proton Experimental. There are various problems with it right now, including small text. You need to manually configure the graphics to perform well. You need to manually bring up the on-screen keyboard. This was primarily designed as a multiplayer game, and clearly so far the developer has not put in any effort whatsoever for it to be more playable on the Steam Deck. With that in mind, these are the settings that I'm currently playing and testing with that give it pretty reasonable performance. It's a mixture of low and medium because the defaults are pretty bad. It gives you generally between 30 to 40 FPS, but there are some areas of hot action that do bring the performance down. Even on all the lowest possible details, you will still see it drop below 30 FPS at times. Anyone saying otherwise simply has not played enough because it is a big game. So no matter what, you're going to see some bits drop below 30 FPS, so you might as well have a couple of bits that you want on medium. The menu system is a peculiar one here as well, because the menus will drop the performance pretty hard, but it's fine again when closing them. It's really weird. And testing it on the Steam Deck OLED, you get a bit over 2 hours play on a full charge. Now, even with the performance drops, overall it feels pretty good to play on the Steam Deck. The biggest annoyance is the small text. There's no option to scale it up. I really do think some developers only ever test on massive monitors with their face right up against the screen. So considering its massive runaway popularity right now, it is good news for players that are interested that it does work on Steam Deck. If all you want to know is if it works and how well it works, and hopefully this has given you some sort of idea of what to expect. It does work, but there are issues, and performance certainly could be better. Now, I'm going to briefly just mention some of the issues. Firstly, with it being in early access, the developer has other titles still left unfinished and just left in early access. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. It's not really a good look on trust, but considering the runaway success of Palworld, hopefully they will actually finish this one. This developer and CEO are also big fans of AI generated art as well. They even have a game called AI Art Imposter that uses AI generation inside of it. Now, AI art, if you can really call it art, is a pretty big hot topic right now. I won't get into how I personally feel about it, but I think highlighting stuff like that about the developer like this is important for context on how they operate. Which leads me into the pals themselves. Some of them really do look like super Pokemon ripoffs. No matter your feelings on AI generation, Valve gave it the okay. Valve even put up some new guidance recently, with developers needing to give Valve more info on how AI is actually used, which they're going to be displaying on Steam Store pages. Something people keep repeating as well is that Nintendo are going to sue them. But the interesting thing to remember is that Nintendo do not own the very idea of monster catching, and their Pokemon games are certainly nothing like Palworld for a lot of the game mechanics. Nintendo cannot sue them for being a monster catching game. They cannot sue them for similarities, but what they can sue them for are some of the creature designs directly, which again, some of them are really painfully close to just being a ripoff. But are they actually close enough to be formally classed as plagiarism? That will be interesting to see. And considering the popularity, I have no doubt that Nintendo are doing some of their own background research here. So over to you in the comments. What do you think to Palworld? How do you feel about game developers using AI generation? Is Palworld your new favourite game? Let me know. For now, I'm going to go back and play some more to gather more thoughts on it. So I'll see you later.